One of the most controversial quotes from the new pope is the one in which he says, "People who think they can follow Christ in their own way without being part of the body are living a distortion." This seems to suggest that there is a right and wrong way to be a Christian. Is he right? If we look to the scriptures, it appears he is right. We see Jesus refer time and time again to the church. For example, in Matthew 16:18, he says, "On this rock I will build my church." And this church appears to have some authority. For example, in Matthew 18, Jesus says, "And if he refuses to listen even to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Truly I say to you, whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." So it's clear here that the church has the authority to settle disputes between members of that church. And if somebody refuses to listen to the church, they are to be cast out and treated as an unbeliever. Okay, so Jesus founded a church, it has authority, and it's very important that we don't reject that church because then we'd be rejecting Jesus himself. So how do I know if I'm in that church? Well, first off, we know that the apostles are the authorities of this church because Jesus gave them the power of binding and loosing on heaven and on earth. He gave them the power to forgive sins or withhold forgiveness of sins. But that authority didn't die with them. In fact, when Judas died, they appointed another one to take his place. Acts chapter 1 verse 20 contains the phrase, "Let another take his office." And in the original Greek, office is translated from episkopos, which means bishopric. So we see that the authority of the apostles are passed on, and the office is called the office of bishop. And this authority wasn't passed on by some mere intellectual means. You have the right beliefs, so now you have this office or something like that. It was passed on by the very specific laying on of hands from other elders. This is described in 1 Timothy 4:14, which says, quote, "Do not neglect the gift you have, which was given to you by prophecy when the council of elders laid their hands on you." So that would mean that today a true church is one in which there is apostolic succession, that is, they can trace their lineage back to the original apostles who passed on their authority to the next generation, and that kept going on and on until today. This is the way authority was passed on even according to the very early Christians. For example, Pope Clement I says, in the first century, "Our apostles knew through our Lord Jesus Christ that there would be strife for the office of bishop. For this reason, therefore, having received perfect foreknowledge, they appointed those who have already been mentioned, and afterwards added the further provision that, if they should die, other approved men should succeed their ministry." This has huge implications because we would be rejecting Jesus himself if we were rejecting those with apostolic succession. So which churches have apostolic succession? Well, there are very few, if any, within Protestantism still today. The two primary examples of churches with apostolic succession today are the Catholic Church and the Orthodox churches. And I would say as a Catholic that the Catholic Church has the fullness of the faith because the Orthodox churches reject the successor of Peter, who today is Pope Leo XIV. Hopefully all this information was very helpful to you. God bless.